In this video, I want to try to jam a lot of different places in New York City that have just been finished in the last couple of years. And I'll let this guy explain what it is I want to do in this video.
This is a video about new places that have opened up in the last 3 years in New York. And I used to work in New York, I used to work in Brooklyn, and I saw some things that were in progress, and I just wanted to come back and see what was finished while I've been away working on the other side of the Hudson River in New Jersey.
So these are the different projects that I wanted to show. This is the bikeway and walkway on the Upper East Side near the Queensboro Bridge that I'll go on and show you. This is a new man-made park built out into the Hudson River called Little Island Park. Really an unusual place, very compact. I'm going to show one intersection where they've installed these cameras where they're going to enforce the new MTA congestion pricing starting June 30th of 2024, barring any further delays. I'm going to take you to Grand Central and go down deep into Grand Central to the new part of the station of the terminal. It's called Grand Central Madison. It's where the Long Island Railroad now comes into Manhattan on the Upper East Side. It also goes into Penn Station still, but it now goes also into Grand Central. I'm going to take you on a ferry ride up the East River, and we're going to look at some of the really striking high-rises that are popping up all over along the waterfront on the East River in Brooklyn and Queens, going north from Williamsburg up to Greenpoint and then Long Island City. And finally, I'm going to show you the latest extension, the last extension of the High Line, which has been built around the West Side Yard, just south of the Jacob Javits Center, near the Hudson River. So just to show you where these are, they're primarily in the Midtown area, starting with the Upper East Side bike path and walkway, and then Hunters Point and Long Island City. I'm going to show you both in Queens, and then hopping up back across the river, this is where Grand Central Madison is located, Grand Central Terminal at 42nd and Madison in Midtown. And then the High Line is over to the southwest on the Hudson by the West Side Yard. And then further down the Hudson River is Little Island Park, which is right at around 14th Street in the Chelsea neighborhood. And then further down the East River are the Greenpoint and Williamsburg waterfronts, which are a lot of really interesting high-rises built along the river, like Hunters Point and Long Island City in Queens.
All right, here's the new bike path on the Upper East Side along the East River. Let's take a ride on it. I think we're in Sutton Place. Yep, Sutton Place, and that's the Queensboro Bridge right up there to the north. All right, here we are at the south end of it, and this is all new going north. So let's go north underneath the Ed Koch Queensboro Bridge. The East River flows fast. And that's the United Nations right there. So this is where the bike path stops. And I don't know if they're ever going to continue it around the United Nations. They haven't so far because of security concerns. But it's a lot better to be on the bike path than the walking area, pedestrian area, than it is on the FDR right now, which is jammed, packed. It's downtown Brooklyn, straight down the river, across the Williamsburg Bridge. So I don't know how many people ride up and down the length of the Hudson River bike path like I have, both on my regular bike or a city bike. But if you wanted to do that continuously along the East River, you can't yet. You have to go inland and go on regular city streets. So this is what a brand new linear park along the river looks like. On a crisp late April Saturday, last Saturday in April, but the temperatures aren't going to get out of the 50s today. There's the FDR Drive. And that's Roosevelt Island over there across the river, in the middle of the river. It's a separate island. It is connected by a bridge on the Queens side. So we'll just take this up a little ways. I'm not going to go all the way to 125th Street. I don't know if it's just nice all the way up to 125th, but I'm enjoying this part. Gotta have the wind slayer on the camera on a day like today. It's very windy. Plus with riding the bike, you might still pick up a little bit of the wind noise in the background. It's just like the Hudson River bike path. It's not always totally delineated between bike and pedestrian. Shared zone, yield to pedestrians. And I think I'll take this up and over the FDR and back to the streets. Or maybe I'll just turn around, go back the other way. We'll go back the other way for now. Definitely into the wind now, so you're gonna definitely hear something. Little dog park where they separate little dogs from bigger dogs. And just like the Hudson River bike path, this is very well done. There's the cable car that goes to Roosevelt Island. You can take that. I think it's the same fare as the subway. So anyway, this is new. I think it just opened within the past year. And that's the theme of this video. Is I worked in Brooklyn 3 years ago, or a little less than 3 years ago, and things are always changing, mostly for the better in New York. So this is one of the things that's happened since I stopped working in the city. I still live in the New York area, but I just don't come into the city anymore. The one thing is, as nice as you can make this, you still have to listen to the traffic right next door. And it's kind of amplified by being underneath this platform. But that's so the people in Sutton Place can come out and have some outdoor space. So it's built over the highway. Different projects you hear about where they've built over the highway or half into the river. And the number of piles that they've had to drill to do that, it's in the hundreds, if not thousands, various projects. And there's a little fast ferry that goes from like Wall Street all the way up to Astoria. I think that's one of them. I didn't know it went on this side of Roosevelt Island, but I want to check that out. Alright, I'm going to dismount my bike and go back over this bridge. Show you a little bit of Sutton Place. As I'm making the big turn to go south. Okay, on we go. This whole area of the Hudson River bike path has also been fixed up. These are like athletic fields here. And it's unusual that there's nobody on the bike path right now. And I would have taken a bike here, but the last few bike stations I went to, it did not work. I was a little disappointed in City Bike, which has expanded and expanded, but there's a lot of stations that look like they've gotten worn out and need to be upgraded. The bikes are in generally good shape though. That used to be a little spotty. Alright, so here's that little island, Pier 55. And I used to ride to work down the Hudson River bike path. I'd come in at the Port Authority bus terminal and then get on a city bike and ride down, and this was just under construction for a couple of years. It doesn't look very simple, and it's not. It was a tough thing for them to build, and they'd be working on it through the winter also, just to get to the point where you could plant trees and vegetation. So that's what I want to check out after all that work that was done. And this is one of the old pier entrances that they've kept as a historic relic. And everything along the Hudson is just really well done. And you can see it just attracts a ton of people. Perfect weather for walking around. Let's check it out. It looks like there's more than one entrance to the island. Man-made island. They had to drill a lot of piles in the Hudson to build this. And they must forbid you to take a city bike onto the island. I don't see any city bikes here, so there's probably a sign that said no bikes allowed. But there's stairs, so that wouldn't be too easy to negotiate with a heavy bike. Let's go up the stairs. To show you where we are, we're southwest of the Empire State Building. And a lot of great architecture along the river here. We're roughly at West 14th Street. So that would put us right at the boundary of the West Village and Chelsea in Manhattan. And there's a Statue of Liberty through there. You can see it. Just wanted to take a look at the piles that are holding up this park. Not too many people are going to stare at that part of the park, but I will.
I mean, if I don't feel like I'm...
It's beautiful. Wants to walk to the top point.
It took probably a year.
So that's where we're headed.
Yeah, it sounds like a good deal.
I could probably rent an apartment at like 7 months.
It's Jersey City and Hoboken across the water. And Weehawken.
Where is it? Oh, I see it. You'll know it.
Just take a quick look because it's so crowded.
And it's not that long, it's like 15 minutes. You good? No, we gotta go. Jersey City's over there.
For the size of this park, it really packs a punch.
What if it's a circle?
But then there's another thing.
That's it. We can say we've done it. You know, it's not that much bigger than the Irish Hunger Memorial, which is down by the World Trade Center in Battery Park. But when you go there, it takes you away. You feel like you're in a whole different environment. And the wind is really windy here, so even with the wind slare, it's probably picking it up. Little Island Park. Finally got to see the finished product on the west side of Manhattan. Now I'm definitely going to check out this city bike station to get a bike. Hopefully it'll work to go to my next destination. But before I do, there's something else I wanted to just see what's going on, and I'm looking for cameras that have been mounted on the street lights. And what this is they're gonna start congestion pricing in Manhattan. You can use the West Side Highway or the FDR Drive to drive through without getting off either highway. But if you get off either highway and drive into Manhattan anywhere below 60th Street, the toll is $15. And it's pretty complex. They're gonna take, it's all gonna be recorded with cameras from the front and the back. You can see them up here, look like they're installed. I think they're pretty much all installed by now, like at 110 locations. And then you'll just be sent the bill for driving into Manhattan. Here's the High Line above. And we're right near Chelsea Market. You can see the word market if you look down that way. It's Chelsea Market, which is great historic adaptive reuse. So I'm assuming those are the cameras. I don't quite know why they're set up the way they are. They've determined what the proper angle to install them at. So this is just one of the 110 intersections. So if you come off the West Side Highway after June 30th, like these cars are doing here, and you drive down 14th Street, you're going to pay $15 to do so. It's the congestion pricing. It's been delayed over time due to lawsuits. I think even state of New Jersey's been suing to stop it because I disagree with the governor of New Jersey. I live in New Jersey, but I don't feel like you should have to drive into the city every time you want to come into the city. I didn't today. I came in on a bus. But for those who really have to drive, it's just going to cost them an extra $15 on top of their bridge or tunnel tolls. But I've heard also that they're going to deduct what you paid for your bridge toll or your tunnel toll if you went through a tunnel and then came into the city. So it's not totally $15. All right, let me see if I can get on a bike here. A lot of bikes, and people are waiting to dock their bike. All right, we're headed for Grand Central, and I want to see the new part of Grand Central, which is called Grand Central Madison, where the Long Island Railroad now comes in. So take a look. So that last shot was from my city bike right before I docked it along Park Avenue. And now here's Grand Central. Grand Central Terminal as opposed to station, because it's the last stop coming into Manhattan from the north. So this is the classic older part of the station that you take to go to Metro North, which takes you upstate as far north as Poughkeepsie or Pauling and Connecticut. And so, fun fact, I used to work for the MTA, and I ran board committee meetings that focused on the capital program. And the project we're going to take a look at, when I worked at the MTA up through 2005, right towards the end, it was like valued at, it was going to be about $3 billion, pushing $4 billion, and it ultimately wound up costing $12 billion, and it finished like 10 years behind schedule. So here you see you're interstated to the Long Island Railroad, so we have to go. Grand Central beginning was a 2-level station, and now it's a 4-level station. So we're going to go down to the second track level. To the what was considered the lower level. And I've never been here before since this project was built. I left the MTA a long time before they got going on construction. They had just started picking the consultants to do the design. So it says to the Long Island Railroad. This is like a food court level. Very popular. So let's take what you got to take to get down to the Long Island level. I was thinking it might not even be open on weekends, but I'm glad I see people. It is open, so we will see some people. Oh, everything is straight ahead, as if there could be another direction, so. Gets quiet real fast. But here you can see the typical Long Island stations and when the different trains are leaving. So it's built to look like the original Grand Central. See, welcome to Grand Central Madison. Let's see where we go. I guess this is a future store, so they've got stuff in the windows that make it look like a store. Not bad. So the 201 through 204 is probably the top level of this lower station, and then the 300s are the lowest, I'm guessing. Previously, the Long Island Railroad trains just came into Penn Station at 34th and 7th, between 7th and 8th Avenues. And the survey data was showing that a lot of people from Long Island were having to get on the subway and come back east and north to go to their jobs. So this project was built to drop them off in Manhattan, let's say a mile closer to where they needed to be. And so say you're from Long Island and you are working in the 50s, you could take the train in here to Grand Central Madison, come out the north end of the station, and just have a couple blocks to walk. Whereas before, that would have been a major trek from down at 33rd, 34th Street up into the 50s and also across. So it's more like a mile and a half. It probably saves a lot of people. But where does it start? It just goes on and on and on. I'm walking north, I believe. Let's take one of these escalators. There's some really long ones here. And they're high speed. I remember hearing like early planning studies and people who were critical of the project saying it'll take people a minute and a half just to get out of the station. So these escalators need to be high speed. Kind of an airport feel. So you can imagine the amount of drilling and blasting work that had to occur through solid granite rock. Manhattan is built on granite schist, they call it. Okay. This takes you to this level. And for people from Long Island, it's a new concept where the train stops here. It's the last stop, so you don't have to constantly watch what track your train is coming in on. I think I'm all turned around. I think I just saw this train going forward on the right. So these are all Long Islanders and people from Queens. My favorite New Yorkers, by the way. Salt of the earth. Really good people. So it's great that they get to come into Grand Central just like everybody else from the suburbs did. Although New Jersey Transit still goes into just Penn Station. But they've improved Penn Station a lot, so it's better for everybody, the stations. But people at Metro North, who took Metro North, they've always had it good coming into Grand Central. So let me take another escalator, and at this point I could use a map, but you're getting the general sights and sounds of the Long Island part of Grand Central Madison where I've seen different numbers how many people come into Grand Central now as opposed to Penn Station. I want to say it's 50-50. It could be 60-40, but I'm not sure which station gets most of the people from Long Island now. Alright, so I'll take a shot of anything else that's super interesting in this area. All brand new. So I was correct. This train to the down below to the right, it pulled up from behind us. It was pulling up from the south. I don't know how it did that, because it's pretty much the end of the track. The Grand Central's at 42nd Street, and right now we're underneath 45th Street, and we're headed south. So you can't see all the tracks at once on each level, but there are 4 tracks on each of the 2 levels. 8 tracks in all, just for the Long Island Railroad. Alright, so let's go back up the escalator. And I've walked down it, but I think I'll stand here on the ride back up. Meet you up at the higher level. The other thing it allows people to do is they can take a train in from Long Island, and if they have to go north, let's say go up to White Plains, they can do that. They can switch here to a Metro North train, and their Metro North trains look just like the Long Islands. They're both part of the MTA. So those are just some of the lines that the trains go to. Even Magnolia Bakery has an outpost here. Famous in the West Village. Like West 11th and Bleecker, if you're trying to find that landmark. You have to get used to this. And become a regular.
Please do not sit on the steps or the handrail. Please watch your step getting on and off.
So now we're back in the historic part of Grand Central. And this takes us up to the street at 43rd and Madison. And now we're out at the outside of Grand Central on the Vanderbilt Avenue side. Super windy here on the ferry going up the East River. There's Lower Manhattan over there. I'm gonna go underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, and the first stop on this ferry is at Dumbo, which is supposed to be between the Brooklyn and Manhattan bridges. We'll see. And I'm gonna get off at the second stop at South Williamsburg. Really windy, but what a view, huh? This ferry is packed, standing room only. It's so windy you have to take off your glasses, otherwise they'll blow right off. Iconic. So we got up to full speed for about 15 seconds. And I guess we gotta curl around and go in there where that other ferry is. new places that have opened in the last 3 years. Brooklyn Bridge would not be in that category. It was built in 1883. That was when it was opened. And there's the Statue of Liberty down there. Just a great angle of the Brooklyn Bridge and of Lower Manhattan and everything. Staten Island ferry is getting ready to take off. That's that orange ferry. Wind picking up again as we leave the downtown Brooklyn stop, the Dumbo stop. Headed north up the East River towards Williamsburg, going under the Manhattan Bridge. This is what I wanted to come on the ferry to see, is some of the new high-rises here in Williamsburg. These look like they might still be under construction. I don't know if those are construction cranes or maybe they're permanent. This is the Brooklyn Navy Yard over here. So here's the South Williamsburg Ferry Terminal. I think I'm going to go to the north one or the Greenpoint one. I just want to see these new buildings that are along the river. So much new development from Williamsburg up to Long Island City in Queens. So northern Brooklyn to western Queens. And that's downtown Brooklyn over there. There's also been tons of new development. I see one high-rise under construction. See a couple of cranes. Another ferry's pulling out. Maybe going the opposite direction. And where you see one Domino Square, those are, well, you can see the one is still under construction. It's got the freight elevators on the outside of the building still, but that's another development I want to take a look at from the water. But the architecture is super cubic. Cool. This is the Williamsburg Bridge. Takes you over to like the East Village. And you can see Midtown Manhattan underneath the Williamsburg Bridge looking north. Just notice this building is under construction. Taking Williamsburg about as far south as you can go before you run into the Brooklyn Navy Yard. So Williamsburg's a mixture of Hasidic Jewish, like this building just to the right of the new building, and then Hipsterville. Nice sweep here as we are going to go under the Williamsburg Bridge. Just such a cool view.
Next stop, North Williamsburg.
She said North Williamsburg. So this used to be a place where they brought sugar in and then put it into bags. I don't think you actually manufacture sugar, but anyway, they're fixing up this old building. And when I saw the artist renderings of some of these projects, I go, can't be. But yeah, this one actually has been built the way they said it was going to be. And there's a nice waterfront esplanade you can walk along here. It's too cold to lay lay out, get a suntan on a day like today, but in the summer, that's what a lot of people do. There are a few subway lines over here, but not that many. One thing that really comes in handy on this side of the river is City Bike. There's a ton of bike docks, and you can get a bike, and there's a nice, it's almost like a bike highway, like the Hudson River bike path goes just on the inside of these buildings. Alright, we're going to dock here. I'm going to take it one more stop. Here's more development in North Williamsburg / Greenpoint. The two run into each other. This building's under construction. I'm sure there's an artist rendering out there what it's going to look like. But wow, and then you can see Midtown Manhattan over there, but Long Island City is starting to rival it as you go further north. Wow, this is Greenpoint. I can't believe it. I used to live in this neighborhood when it was all 3-4 story tall buildings. That was it, and now it's just high-rise Central along the river. Can you imagine with the decks that they have on this building? All right, let's get off here and explore some more from Walking and City Bike. This is the crew getting off at this stop with me. And they're working on Saturday. You can hear them. At least they're moving material around in the buildings to get ready for Monday. Really something. City Bike right here. Right by all the construction. Alright, I'm gonna get on here. So even with all these tall buildings, it's a lot quieter than Manhattan. I mean, this building here with the different shapes stacked on top of each other. I don't know how you describe that architecture, but it's pretty wild. So we'll see if I can get through here, how this works. Just a brand new neighborhood. Let's see if I can go through here, where it'll take me. One blue slip. Looks like a dead end for cars anyway. Let's see if I can go along the water. Greenpoint Landing Esplanade.
Sit. Wait.
Long Island City or Hunters Point across this little man-made waterway that used to be used for industrial purposes. maybe still is occasionally. Question is, can you get through here? Waiting for more development to occur, I guess, and then the developers help build this riverfront bike path, walking path that will make it continuous. So let's go back out and we'll go further north. I'm on Manhattan Avenue, which is the main street of Greenpoint, so going south, that's the commercial area, but I just saw this brewery, restaurant, so cool with the water tower, stained glass. Not a real water tower, but built to look like one. Crunchy, love it. I just love the older buildings that have been preserved in amongst the modern. Box Street. So on top of all the high rises along the river, there's a lot of infill housing built in between the older buildings or in place of. So I'm just going to go down here into Greenpoint a little bit. I have to go down here and get on another city bike to go up and over the Pulaski Bridge to get over into Long Island City. I was hoping there might be some new little bridge. So like here's a new 6-story, 7-story residential. Okay, I have my next city bike location picked out. I'm going to take the bike down here into downtown Greenpoint and dock the bike and then walk back to another city bike dock and continue on. So we're going over the Pulaski Bridge into Queens, and that's Long Island City, which always is a neighborhood of Queens, which always had that name, but now it looks like a real city with a real skyline. It's a little yard for the Long Island Railroad, which comes in here, which used to be kind of a nothing stop, but now Long Island City and Hunters Point are kind of a destination. It's the Queens Midtown Tunnel. The Long Island Expressway goes there to get into Manhattan. And I noticed, I'd say like, of all the bikes you see, at least half are the electric assist bikes, which I find fun to ride, but you pay $19 a day if you don't have an annual pass. I used to have an annual pass when I worked in this city for many years, almost since the start of City Bike. But now, since I don't have an annual pass, I pay when I want to ride City Bike. I've only done it a couple times. Paying $19 a day, and then it's extra for the electric assist bike. So it told me I spent like $7.50 extra just to ride an electric bike for a half hour downtown Long Island City, just to see the new construction, and then turn around and go back to Greenpoint and Williamsburg. So again, it's really quiet here on the non-Manhattan side. Certain streets are really busy, like when you get to Queens Boulevard, it's very busy and loud. But we are on Jackson Avenue. We're headed roughly towards Jackson Heights. I don't know if that's why it has its name. I have to be mindful of not going through red lights. It is expensive. If you get pulled over, the police will pull you over. I've learned a couple times in Manhattan. So, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I don't want it to happen a third time. And that's the number 7 train that goes out to Flushing, Queens. It's actually going inbound to Manhattan right now. Alright, more up ahead. Altice on the top. That used to be the City Corp building.
Don't let it all go out there.
When they were the first ones to build over here, everybody thought they were nuts, but now everybody else has joined them. Looking up underneath the number 7 line. Fairly modern new entrance. What's really astounding is that it's great that the development has finally occurred, but it's astounding that it took so long. It's kind of like having a good-looking restaurant that nobody was at, so nobody wants to eat there. But then once some people start coming over, then other people follow. So I'm gonna go down this street if I can. Yes, I can. I feel like we're in Brooklyn, a real brownstone type street, right near all the high rises. Beautiful street. I think we're on, it gets really confusing in Queens, the street numbering system. We're coming up on 21st Street and we're on 45th Avenue. This is kind of reminiscent of when I was in Camden, New Jersey a couple of months ago, and you'd be on the streets of Camden and you could look out and across the river was downtown Philadelphia. Well, this is Midtown Manhattan, but unlike Camden, the streets here are fairly smooth and it's much more happening. Much less poor, not glamorous, but expensive. Playground, ball carts there. So there was a sign on one of the new high-rises here in Long Island City, live at the center of it all. So you'd think Manhattan was the center of it all, but Hunters Point is saying no, they're the center of it all. So you can see like still some old factories and stuff like that. Vernon Boulevard. Okay, we'll head over here. Okay, wow, we're right across the river from the United Nations. You don't see this view too often. Those black steel things are what they used to pick up rail cars that came in on the rail tracks and then ferry them across the river to Manhattan. They have similar things on the Hudson River that they've kept. So we are in Hunters Point, Long Island City. I just run the two together. I don't know where one starts and the other one stops. And it's getting a little windy. So I'm going to put on my wind slayer pretty soon here. It's cooler. There's some available seats here. I'm going to grab this one here. You can see it says Long Island on that steel structure, black structure. Okay, let's take a last look at Long Island City. This is a great little memorial to the tragedy in Israel. So looking north, it's the Queensboro Bridge, and I believe those new buildings on Roosevelt Island in the middle of the river are, speaking of Israel, that's Technion University from Israel. They have a campus here. I think it's in joint ventureship with Cornell, like a biomedical research. There was a lot of competition. I know Stanford University was one of the schools that proposed to have a campus here in New York. So there's an old Pepsi-Cola sign in front of these new modern apartment buildings, and just like along the Hudson River, they have these nice benches. So it's pretty continuous. There's one part where it's just asphalt, like it's going to be improved in the future. So this is just what's amazing to me, that this all has built up in just the last, it's probably more than 3 years, but I've not really paid attention to what's been going on in Long Island City, so it's all new to me. And then let's take a last look at Manhattan going from Midtown. There's the United Nations. You can see the Empire State Building through there. And then down to Lower Manhattan. Here at the Vernon Boulevard Jackson Avenue station in Long Island City, Queens. And I'm going to take the 7 train all the way to Hudson Yards. I've never taken it all the way, so usually go to just Times Square, but this takes at least one more stop. Maybe there's a couple more stops. 34th Street and Hudson Yards is a deep station. And you come up off that escalator and you've got another set of escalators to go up. Not to mention I had to take stairs just to get up to the first escalator. The signs point this way to the High Line. To the west. Structure which I never could figure out why they built it. It was basically just a curiosity. It didn't really have any function except you could walk up the stairs and get to the top and have sort of a view, but it seemed like a big expense for what you would get out of the experience. But they closed it because too many people were jumping off of it to commit suicide. So get a better look of it around here. that like mattress looking building is. But that's the vessel. So whatever this building is, it's called the Shed. Performance arts space? Don't know. So I just came over here to walk a little bit of the High Line, the newest part that was added at its northernmost end. Well, that's pretty new, so we'll take a look. These people all might be coming from the High Line. We'll see. Yep, it is the High Line. So it is a really cool thing to walk on. I think New York took the idea from Paris, where they have something. I don't know if it's in the one in Paris is built on a former elevated rail line, but it's the same thing, an elevated park that you walk up to above the streets. And here you can see like the old rail tracks that used to go. Now these aren't the actual old tracks, I'm sure they're new to be put in to look like they're old, but gives you the idea. So maybe there are galleries in there and that's it. We'll look it up. I'll put it on the screen what exactly is going on. There's people in there taking escalators. So Hudson Yards has been in process for a number of years. It's not brand new, but it's pretty new. And this is the yard where they store the Long Island Railroad trains that come into Penn Station before they go back east to Long Island. And that's the Jacob Javits Convention Center up just to the north of the yard. And they're going to build over the yard at some point to take advantage of its proximity to the Hudson River here. You can see the High Line, and we're way up here, and we're going to walk on the new part to the end. And like I said, it's a cool thing. You can walk all the way down to Gansevoort Street in the meatpacking district. You can see they have some construction equipment here. They're drilling more piles, not right now, but they're in the process of drilling piles for a future overbuild over the yard. Here they've left the actual old tracks in place with little trees growing up through the tracks. That's cool. So one thing that really gets me, I don't notice it that much usually in Manhattan, but there's quite a din from all the helicopters, sightseeing helicopters. It makes it sound like people are really having to get somewhere important, but they're just going up for 5, 10, 15 minutes for several $100s to have an overhead view.
It would have been sick.
Rounding the corner to the northern tip by the West Side Highway, which is right down there. And there's got to be a stairway here at the end. You can get off the High Line. It's one of those things in New York. It's a simple pleasure. It's free. and tons of people come here to just walk it. Looking back east, now these trains will go underneath the street there, which I think is 11th Avenue at this point, and then down into Penn Station. 30 tracks wide. Getting to the end as the High Line curves around one more time after going around the West Side Yards. So this is the end, the northern end of the High Line, or the beginning, if you want to take it down south, which is about a little more than a mile.